The story is set in a world facing a weird sickness where taking off your headphones can kill you. Here you risk losing not just your favorite music, but your life too. Weird, right? This sickness has left scientists puzzled for more than 8 years because it spreads through talking and listening, making everyday communication risky. The first sign of this disease is a high fever, which soon leads to the sick person talking without making sense and eventually going mad. To protect themselves, people wear headsets all the time because the disease can be caught just by hearing someone's infected talk. The infected people, called jabbers, are quickly taken away from their families and placed in isolation, causing a lot of public anger and sadness. Murat, a language expert or a linguist whose life has been greatly affected by the epidemic, is at the center of the story. He feels isolated and lives a life filled with caution with his mother in their apartment. Every single day, he carefully checks his own temperature, an action that highlights his constant fear of becoming sick. One day, at a bus stop, Murat notices Sul, a young woman deeply absorbed in reading a book. He finds himself completely captivated by her, but she notices him staring. Embarrassed, Murat quickly tells her that no buses are coming and rushes away. On another day, Murat leaves his home reluctantly to buy soap for his mother. While he is shopping at the supermarket, he encounters an old woman who suddenly starts speaking incoherently, clearly showing that she's a jabber. Immediately, an alarm sounds, warning everyone about the presence of a jabber and advising them to evacuate the supermarket quickly. During the chaotic evacuation, everyone runs out except for the old woman and a young boy who was left behind without a headset. Seeing the boy's mother crying desperately outside, Murat is moved to act. He risks himself by going back inside, gives his headset to the boy, and manages to escape just in time. Despite his close encounter with the jabber, Murat is fortunate enough to not contract the epidemic. He does develop a high fever, but he recovers and is able to return home safely with the soap. Meanwhile, Anton, a senior official at the AEI, is urgently searching for a way to stop the epidemic. He faces more worry when he learns that even young children can catch the disease. However, he becomes very interested when he learns about Murat's bravery at the supermarket. Anton thinks Murat might be immune to the disease, so he starts looking into surveillance footage to learn more about him. He sees videos of Murat collapsing in the supermarket, but then getting up and acting as if nothing happened, which confuses and intrigues Anton even more. Elsewhere in the city, Murat goes to help at the home of his mother's friend after receiving an urgent request for help. The friend's son, Arif's father, is showing symptoms of the disease, speaking in a disjointed and confused manner. Arif holds on to hope and pleads with Murat to find a cure, believing in Murat's unique abilities. He even suggests that they could collaborate with Murat's friend Asghar, but Murat informs him that Asghar has died. Arif is skeptical about Asghar's death because there was no proper funeral and Asghar's body was never shown. Determined to find out the truth, Arif plans to meet Errol, a businessman known for trading information. Arif hopes that Errol can confirm whether Asghar is really dead and help them in their quest to discover a cure. Meanwhile, Anton deeply investigates the mysterious case of the headset left with a child at the supermarket. He finds out that the headset belongs to Murat, a linguist who has been working on the pandemic but disappeared after a disastrous fire killed his team. Curious, Anton digs deeper into Murat's history. He finds records showing Murat visited the emergency room with severe fever more than 12 times. By examining video footage from the supermarket and using a temperature detector, Anton confirms his suspicion. Murat is immune to the pandemic. He realizes this because Murat has had more than 4 high fever episodes, a crucial finding since Murat has had 12 such episodes. In the meantime, encouraged by Arif's belief that Asghar is still alive, Murat decides to look further into it. He meets a businessman who gives them access to AEI's resources, helping them gather information independently and save money. With renewed determination, Murat bravely sneaks into the AEI headquarters and makes his way to the information hub downstairs. There, he searches for Asghar's name and feels a letdown when he finds records indicating Asghar's death. He clicks on the autopsy image, bracing for the worst, but is surprised to see a burnt face that is unrecognizable with no identifiable tattoo on the wrist. The missing tattoo, which Murat knows his friend had, reignites his hope that Asghar might still be alive. Before leaving the room, Murat impulsively searches for his own name in the database. He is shocked and upset to find video footage of himself from the supermarket incident. Realizing the potential danger of this discovery, Murat quickly leaves the room, unable to delete the record. His escape is tense and urgent, aware that being in the AEI database could lead to serious and unexpected problems. Soon after, fueled by his big discovery about Murat's immunity, Anton excitedly goes to share his findings with his boss. However, his excitement turns to disappointment when his boss dismisses his claims, warning against spreading unverified rumors. Upset by this response and determined to keep investigating, Anton decides to act on his own. He gets the address of Murat and his mother's home under a false name and heads there with his men to capture Murat. When they arrive, Murat's mother answers the door, thinking it might be her son. However, the AEI forces quickly move into the home, spreading out across the house and the apartment complex. They strategically place themselves, waiting for Murat to come back so they can capture him. Unseen by the AEI operatives, Murat's mother discreetly places a pre-arranged signal on the window, a secret way of communicating with her son. Then, she calmly lights a cigarette and sits down, keeping her composure despite the tense situation. Meanwhile, Murat, who had been hoping to see the beautiful girl from the bus stop again, returns home. As he nears his apartment, he spots a signal from his mother, alerting him to danger. He hesitates at the entrance, torn about what to do. Inside, Anton and his team are ready to spring their trap, eagerly awaiting Murat's arrival. Murat struggles internally, thinking about the girl and realizing that entering the apartment could mean he'd never see her again. This thought prompts him to make a quick decision to flee in the opposite direction, catching Anton and his men by surprise. They lose sight of him within seconds. Back at Murat's house, Anton takes the chance to gather Murat's belongings for further investigation, hoping to understand more about Murat's unique situation. The next day, as Murat continues his search for Özgür, AEI forces stop him, asking for his ID. As Murat nervously reaches to show his ID, a bomb suddenly explodes nearby. The chaos scatters the AEI forces, giving Murat a moment to slip away. He heads to a location where he thinks he might find Özgür, but is disappointed to learn that Özgür isn't there. Speaking with the man who created Özgür's distinctive tattoo, Murat finds out that since Özgür's death, others have started copying the tattoo, making it harder for him to find his friend. Meanwhile, Anton is reviewing recordings from the night and comes across a clip of Murat stating that he can't become a jabber, even if he tried. This new information makes Anton rush back to AEI to discuss it with a colleague. However, when he arrives, he is met by his boss, Phil, who confronts him in a stern meeting and orders him to stop pursuing the case. During this time, Murat has a comforting conversation with an old man who offers him a drink. They talk, and the old man tries to ease Murat's guilt about his wife's tragic death, which happened after she contracted the pandemic. The old man reassures him that it wasn't his fault. Murat listens quietly, then shares his plans to venture into Zone 6 in his relentless quest to find Özgür. Later, Murat seeks help from Erol, a man Arif introduced him to. Erol is willing to do anything for money, and Murat needs him to make a fake ID. They plan to meet the next day. After that, Murat visits Arif's house, where he talks about his determination to find Özgür and their common goal of discovering a cure for the epidemic. Before leaving, Arif's grandmother gives him some money, and his mother, having no money, gives him her necklace as a token of support. However, their actions do not go unnoticed. One of Anton's men sees Murat and quickly informs Anton, who orders his team to follow Murat discreetly. The next day, as Murat meets with Erol to get his forged ID, Erol gets an alert that AEI forces are approaching their location. In a hurried escape, they manage to evade Anton and his team, who arrive at the warehouse too late to catch them. With his new fake ID, Murat heads to the subway station, planning to go to Zone 6 where there's less security. He gets past the first security check using the fake ID, but soon, a security guard starts to get suspicious after spotting Murat's face on some wanted posters. Just then, Sul, the girl Murat has been hoping to see again, shows up unexpectedly. She kisses him right there in the subway, confusing the security guard who was following him. This surprise makes Murat very happy. Holding hands, they continue on the subway, starting a journey filled with unknowns, but happy to be together. After leaving the bus stop, Murat and Sul walk through some tough areas until they find a quiet rooftop to talk alone. Murat, who is still focused on finding his friend Özgür, almost leaves, but Sul asks him to stay for a meal. While they talk, he thanks her for helping him earlier. Sul then tells him why she was following him. She wants Murat to join her team, P1, which is working to find a cure for the pandemic. Murat is surprised by this and leaves quickly, without letting her finish. Later, Murat goes back to the house he shares with his wife, filled with memories as he walks through each room. That night, he dreams about being torn between his wife and Sule, showing his inner struggle. The next morning, his search for Oscar takes an unexpected turn when he is kidnapped by people wearing masks. They question whether he works for AEI. At that moment, Sule steps in, telling them that Morat is not with AEI and is on a personal mission. Morat convinces them of his true intentions, and they agree to help him if they find any information about Oscar. Sule takes Morat to a studio where she works, and after saying sorry for the earlier confusion, she starts a podcast. She talks about the cruel actions of AEI, mentioning how they were related to the unfair death of her boyfriend, and stresses the importance of finding a cure to stop the crisis. Meanwhile, Anton goes back to his house where his wife and son are being kept in quarantine because of the pandemic. While there, he feels like someone is watching him. He looks around but finds no one, not knowing that Phil's right-hand agent is secretly watching him from a hidden spot. Meanwhile, Morat and Sule keep walking through the city affected by the pandemic. Morat shows how he can resist the disease by taking off his headset near Jabbers, showing that his skull heats up, but he doesn't get the usual symptoms. Sule is fascinated by Morat's unique ability to resist the disease. That night, Morat stays at the studio with Sule, and when he wakes up the next morning, he meets the team Sule had talked about. They introduce themselves and ask for his help. At first, Morat is unsure, but he starts to feel more comfortable when Sule tells him that being with the team might help him find Oscar. During their search for Oscar, Morat and Sule find a hotel that has the symbol linked to Oscar. Morat and Sule decide to investigate further by going into the hotel to meet with the hotel's boss. However, their meeting starts to get tense pretty quickly. In a moment of quick thinking, Morat uses his previous experience with recording voices to offer the boss a rare tape. This clever move impresses the boss, easing the tension and giving them the opportunity to sit down and have a deeper conversation. Just as Morat and Sule begin to explain their mission to find Oscar, their discussion is suddenly interrupted by a woman who enters the room to deliver an item and collect payment. After the woman leaves, the boss urges Morat and Sule to continue their story. They share that they are searching for the person linked to a special symbol they have. To their surprise, the boss reveals that the woman who just left the room was actually the one who brought that symbol to the hotel. Reacting quickly, Morat and Sule rush outside to try and catch the woman, but they are too late. She drives away, clearly not interested in speaking with them. This missed opportunity leaves Morat and Sule with even more questions than before as they continue their adventure in a world that is both uncertain and dangerous. My friends, the next part of their story is now showing on the screen in front of you. That wraps up the first part of Morat and Sule's thrilling adventure. As they continue to navigate through this uncertain and dangerous world, more surprises and challenges await them. Don't miss out on what happens next. Be sure to watch part 2 to follow their journey further. You can find the link to the next video in the description or pinned comment below. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.